God prepares your heart before sending your soulmate because He understands that love, true love, the kind that mirrors His own, can only flow freely from a heart that is anchored in Him first. It is never just about meeting someone. It is about becoming someone who is capable of carrying the weight of a sacred relationship. When God begins to prepare you, you feel it in the way your desires shift. You start yearning less for superficial connections and more for divine intimacy with Him. You realize that no person on earth can ever satisfy the deepest needs of your soul, because those needs were placed there to be filled by God alone. In this season, God becomes your first love, and that changes everything. Your relationship with Him grows richer, more personal, more consuming. He becomes the center, the anchor, and the source of your identity. And when God is first in your life, you no longer approach relationships from a place of desperation, fear, or emptiness. Instead, you move with a sense of confidence, peace, and clarity. God's preparation of your heart is also marked by healing. Old scars that you thought you buried long ago resurface, not to destroy you, but to free you. God begins to expose the wounds caused by past relationships, childhood pain, broken trust, and betrayal. It can feel painful when old memories flood your mind, or when you feel emotions you thought you had overcome, but this exposure is mercy in disguise. God cannot build a new relationship on foundations cracked by unresolved hurt. He lovingly walks you through healing, teaching you to forgive where you were wronged, to release where you were abandoned, and to reclaim the parts of your heart you once gave away too cheaply. As He heals you, you become whole, and it is from this place of wholeness that you can give and receive love without turning it into an idol, without suffocating it with fear, and without sabotaging it with insecurity. In preparing your heart, God also sharpens your discernment. You no longer fall for just anyone who shows you attention or speaks the right words. You begin to see people not just with your eyes, but with your spirit. Your attraction shifts from surface-level charm to deep, godly character. You start recognizing the fruit of the Spirit in others instead of being fooled by shallow promises. This change is not something you manufacture. It is a natural outgrowth of your intimacy with God. The closer you walk with Him, the clearer your vision becomes. He trains your heart to recognize His fingerprints on people and circumstances, so when your soulmate arrives, you will not question or doubt it. You will have peace that transcends understanding because your spirit will recognize the divine orchestration. The preparation of your heart also transforms your priorities. You stop living with the goal of finding someone and start living with the goal of becoming someone. You focus on growing in patience, kindness, faithfulness, self-control, all the fruits of the Spirit that sustain a relationship through every season. God teaches you that love is not just a feeling. It is a decision, a covenant, and a daily choice to honor, serve, and build together. As you grow in these virtues, you are being molded into the person who can steward the blessing of marriage without losing sight of your first devotion, Christ. This preparation is not punishment. It is promise. It is God saying, I love you too much to give you anything before you are ready. It is God protecting you from the pain of premature connections and the sorrow of building something on a faulty foundation. It is God ensuring that when your soulmate comes, you are not two broken pieces trying to complete each other, but two whole people complementing each other in strength, purpose, and faith. When your heart is prepared, you are not looking for someone to rescue you. You are ready to walk hand in hand with someone as you both follow Christ, stronger together, because you were first complete in Him. Healing and refining are necessary steps before God brings your soulmate into your life, because love demands a kind of wholeness that brokenness cannot sustain. Many people want the joy of love, but are not willing to walk through the painful but beautiful process of healing. God, in His wisdom and mercy, knows that an unhealed heart will only recreate cycles of hurt, mistrust, and fear within a relationship. So instead of rushing you into the arms of someone else, He pulls you into His own arms first. He begins to expose the hidden places inside you, the bitterness you forgot you had, the fear you masked with ambition, the self-doubt you learned to live with like a bad habit. He doesn't do this to shame you. He does it to set you free. The love He wants to bless you with cannot coexist with chains you refuse to break. It cannot thrive where walls of self-protection are still standing tall. So God refines you with His truth, His patience, and His grace. He walks you through the hard conversations with yourself. He stirs your memories, not to trap you in the past, but to redeem it, to show you that even your deepest wounds are no match for His healing power. As you walk through this refining season, you will notice a shift in your spirit. Things that once triggered you no longer have the same grip. Words that once wounded you deeply now fall away harmlessly. You begin to recognize your own growth, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer driven by pain. You are no longer building your life around fear of rejection or hunger for approval. You start building from a place of peace, of assurance that your worth was sealed by Christ long before anyone had the chance to validate or reject you. This healing creates emotional and spiritual muscles. It teaches you to endure, to forgive, to hope again. It clears the fog from your vision so you can see yourself, others, and God more clearly. Without healing, you might mistake someone's attention for love, someone's interest for commitment, or someone's charm for godly character. But with healing, you develop the wisdom to discern what is fleeting from what is eternal. You learn to wait, to pray, and to trust that God's best is worth the process. In this refining season, God also teaches you how to love without condition. Because until you have experienced unconditional love from the Father in your darkest places, you will struggle to extend it to someone else. You will put limits on your affection. You will guard your heart not out of wisdom but out of fear. Real love, God's love, does not flow from a place of fear. It flows from freedom. That freedom is born in the fire of refinement. When God refines you, He burns away the lies you believed about yourself, the cynicism you developed toward others, and the impatience you carried in your heart. What is left is pure, strong, and beautiful, a heart capable of enduring the highs and lows of a lifelong covenant without wavering. Healing and refining also prepare you to recognize the blessing when it arrives. Without this work, you might miss what God is doing because you are too entangled in your own wounds. You might run from the very person sent to love you because their sincerity feels unfamiliar. But healing teaches you to receive love in its purest form, without suspicion, without self-sabotage. You are able to step into the relationship God has ordained for you with open hands and an open heart, ready not just to be loved, but to love in return. You are no longer a prisoner of your past, but a steward of your future. And in that posture, you are exactly where God needs you to be for your soulmate to enter your life at the appointed time. Isolation is often misunderstood, yet it is one of God's most powerful tools when preparing you for your soulmate. When God pulls you into a season of solitude, it can feel lonely, confusing, and even painful. You may wonder why friendships seem to fade, why relationships don't work out, or why you feel a deep emptiness even when you are surrounded by people. But this isolation is not rejection, it is protection. It is God intentionally setting you apart, quieting the noise of the world, and creating a sacred space where He can work on your heart without distraction. In the silence, you begin to hear His voice more clearly. In the loneliness, you start to feel His presence more deeply. God removes certain people and opportunities not because He is punishing you, but because He is preparing you for something greater that requires a new level of spiritual maturity. During isolation, you learn to depend on God in a way you never had to before. You can no longer lean on the validation of others to feel seen or valuable. You can no longer distract yourself with busyness to avoid facing the deeper issues of your heart. Instead, you are left with nothing but the truth. You need Him more than you ever realized. And it is in this desperate dependence that the most beautiful transformation occurs. God becomes your best friend, your confidant, your healer, your counselor. He teaches you how to sit with Him, to pour out your heart without pretense, and to listen without rushing. In this secret place, He reveals dreams, heals wounds, breaks strongholds, and shapes your character. He strips away false identities and gives you a new name, a new purpose, and a new vision for your life and your future relationship. As the season of isolation continues, something else begins to shift. You stop idolizing marriage itself. You start to see that while marriage is a gift, it is not the ultimate goal. God Himself is the prize. You realize that no human relationship, no matter how beautiful, can replace the intimacy you have cultivated with your Creator. This understanding changes everything. You are no longer seeking a soulmate to fill a void. You are seeking to partner with someone who is also whole and rooted in God. You are no longer desperate for companionship because you have found completeness in Christ. When two whole people meet, their love is not based on neediness but on abundance. This is the kind of relationship that can withstand the storms of life, the kind that reflects God's unchanging love to the world. Isolation also sharpens your discernment in ways nothing else can. When you have spent enough time alone with God, you recognize His voice above all others. You become sensitive to His leading, able to detect counterfeit connections and distractions almost immediately. You are not swayed by sweet words or external appearances because you have been trained to see with spiritual eyes. You have learned the value of waiting on God's timing and trusting His plan, even when it doesn't make sense to those around you. Isolation produces a kind of spiritual maturity that protects you from entering into relationships prematurely or with the wrong intentions. It gives you the wisdom to know that just because someone is available does not mean they are assigned to your life. In this sacred, hidden season, God is doing far more than you can see. He is building the foundation for a relationship that will glorify Him, not just satisfy you. He is aligning your heart with His, teaching you patience, endurance, faith, and unconditional love. And when the time comes when your soulmate steps into your life, you will not question it. You will recognize that the isolation was never meant to harm you. It was preparing you to love deeply, live wisely, and walk boldly into the divine partnership God has had in mind for you all along. Purpose must come before partnership because God never designs relationships just for personal happiness. He designs them for divine assignment. When God prepares you for your soulmate, He first wakes up the calling He placed inside of you. Dreams that once seemed distant begin to stir again. gifts that you neglected or didn't even realize you had start coming to life. You feel a pull towards certain missions, certain fields, certain communities that need what God placed inside of you. This awakening isn't random. It's a signal that God is aligning your life with the reason He created you. Before you can stand beside another person in covenant, you must first stand firmly in your identity and your mission. Without this foundation, it becomes too easy to lose yourself in the relationship or expect the relationship to complete you. But God's way is different. He wants two strong individuals, each rooted in Him, to come together and multiply their impact on the world. When you start walking in your purpose, you begin to see your life through the lens of eternity rather than comfort. Your choices change, your priorities shift. You no longer measure success by worldly standards, but by obedience to God's calling. This is critical because your soulmate is not just someone who will make you feel loved. They are someone who will walk with you into the fulfillment of your destiny. Together, you will encourage, challenge, and build one another for the kingdom's sake. If you have no clear sense of purpose, you risk attaching yourself to someone who is walking a completely different path. But when you know what God has called you to do, it becomes much easier to recognize who is meant to walk alongside you and who is not. In this season, God often tests your faithfulness in the small things. He may ask you to serve in ways that seem hidden or insignificant. He may call you to disciplines that require sacrifice, patience, and perseverance. It's not because He's holding you back, it's because He's preparing you for greater responsibility. Purpose requires preparation just like love does. If you cannot be faithful to your purpose alone, you will struggle to uphold it within a marriage where two callings must now move in unity. This is why God sometimes delays the arrival of your soulmate. He is giving you time to become deeply rooted in Him, so that when the relationship comes, it enhances your calling instead of distracting you from it. As you walk deeper into your purpose, you also become more attractive in the spirit. Your light shines brighter, your confidence grows, not because of pride but because of clarity. You know who you are and why you are here. You are less easily swayed by emotions and more grounded in truth. This kind of spiritual maturity acts as a beacon, drawing the right person toward you. Someone who is also walking in their purpose will recognize your spirit, your passion, and your direction. They will not be intimidated by your calling, but will celebrate and support it, just as you will for them. God's design for your love story is bigger than you. It's not just about two people being happy. It's about two people becoming an unstoppable force for His glory. It's about building a legacy of faith, love, service, and impact. That kind of relationship can only happen when purpose comes first. God is not just writing a romance for you. He is crafting a partnership that will echo into eternity. So if you feel Him pulling you deeper into your calling, if you feel Him challenging you to rise higher, take heart. He is not delaying your promise. He is preparing you to receive it with the strength, wisdom, and focus that your destiny requires. The soulmate you are waiting for is also preparing, also becoming, and in God's perfect time, your purposes will collide, and the partnership will be greater than anything you could have built on your own. Spiritual growth is one of the clearest signs that God is preparing you for your soulmate, because marriage is not just a physical or emotional connection. It is deeply spiritual. If you are not growing spiritually, you are not ready to carry the weight of a relationship that honors God. God desires marriages that are reflections of Christ and His church, full of grace, sacrifice, forgiveness, and relentless love. That kind of relationship cannot be sustained by human strength alone. It requires deep roots in God. So before He sends your soulmate, He pulls you deeper into Himself. He challenges you to grow in prayer, in worship, in patience, in humility, and in discernment. He stretches your faith, not because He is making things difficult, but because He is preparing your spirit to handle the beauty and the battles that come with a true covenant relationship. During this season, you may find yourself hungering for God like never before. Scriptures that once felt dry suddenly become alive and personal. Worship becomes a place of refuge, not just routine. Prayer shifts from a list of requests to a living conversation with your Father. You start to hear His voice more clearly, and His convictions become stronger in your heart. God may reveal areas of your life where compromise has crept in, not to condemn you, but to cleanse you. He is purifying your heart so that when you love someone else, it is a holy love, a love that gives life, not takes it away. Spiritual growth also involves learning to trust God with the unknowns, learning to obey even when you don't understand, and learning to wait even when your emotions urge you to rush ahead. One of the ways God grows you spiritually is by teaching you to love Him more than the promise itself. It's easy to become so focused on the desire for a soulmate that you forget the desire for God should come first. In this season, God gently reorders your heart. He shows you that He is enough even before any earthly blessing comes. When your love for God outweighs your longing for a relationship, you are stepping into spiritual maturity. You are showing God that your heart is ready not just to receive love from a person, but to steward love in a way that honors Him. Spiritual growth also builds the fruits of the Spirit inside of you: patience, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. These are not just nice virtues, they are survival skills for a lasting marriage. A soulmate connection will bring immense joy, but it will also reveal weaknesses, insecurities, and wounds. Without the fruits of the Spirit, it is easy to react with pride, selfishness, or anger when difficulties arise. But when you have allowed God to cultivate His character within you, you respond differently. You know how to humble yourself, to forgive quickly, to persevere through trials with hope instead of resentment. Through spiritual growth, God also sharpens your discernment, giving you wisdom to recognize His voice when He says yes and when He says no. Not every opportunity, not every relationship is from God, and without a strong spiritual foundation, it's easy to be deceived by appearances. But when you have spent time growing in God's presence, your spirit becomes attuned to His. You don't just seek what feels good, you seek what is good according to His will. This process of growth may feel slow, and it may be hidden from others, but it is precious in God's sight. Every moment spent in His presence, every lesson learned, every tear cried in surrender is building the person you need to become to handle the love story He is writing for you. Spiritual growth ensures that when you meet your soulmate, you will not idolize them, depend on them to complete you, or burden them with expectations only God can fulfill. Instead, you will walk into the relationship whole, free, and ready to love as Christ loves, fully, sacrificially, and with a heart anchored not in human affection, but in divine strength. Healing from past wounds is essential before stepping into the kind of relationship God has prepared for you. If your heart is still carrying the weight of past betrayals, disappointments, or losses, it will be very difficult to embrace the love He wants to send you. God does not want you to build a future on a foundation of brokenness. He loves you too much to allow unresolved pain to poison the blessing He is preparing. So when you sense God bringing up old memories, surfacing hidden hurts, or prompting you to forgive people you thought you had forgotten about, understand that this is not a delay. It is divine preparation. He is cleansing the soil of your heart so that the seeds of a new relationship can grow in purity and strength. Healing is rarely easy. It requires honesty, vulnerability, and courage. It means confronting the parts of yourself that you would rather ignore, the insecurities, the fears, the unhealthy patterns you developed as a means of survival. It means allowing God to touch the areas you have hidden away because they felt too painful to deal with. But what feels like breaking is actually rebuilding. What feels like loss is actually restoration. God is not exposing your wounds to shame you. He is bringing them into the light so that He can heal them completely. A heart that has been healed by God loves differently. It loves without fear, without conditions, without chains. It loves with freedom because it is no longer carrying the baggage of the past. In this season, God teaches you that forgiveness is not about letting others off the hook. It's about setting yourself free. You learn to release bitterness, resentment, and anger because you realize that these things only keep you trapped. True healing comes when you stop rehearsing the pain and start trusting God to redeem it. You begin to see that every heartbreak, every disappointment, every rejection was not wasted. God was using it all to strengthen you, to purify your desires, to deepen your capacity for love. You are no longer a victim of your past. You are a victor through Christ who heals, restores, and renews. As healing progresses, you start to recognize your worth in a new way. You understand that you are not defined by what happened to you, but by who God says you are. You are beloved, chosen, and redeemed. This shift in identity is crucial because it means you will not settle for less than what God intends for you. When you know your worth, you are not desperate for attention or acceptance. You are willing to wait for the one who sees you through God's eyes, not through the lens of their own brokenness. Healing empowers you to love from a place of strength, not neediness. It positions you to be a blessing in your future relationship, not a burden weighed down by unresolved pain. God's healing work also protects your future spouse. Imagine stepping into a marriage still carrying deep, unhealed wounds. Every disagreement could reopen old scars. Every misunderstanding could trigger hidden fears. But when you allow God to heal you now, you enter your future relationship with a heart that knows how to handle conflict with grace, how to communicate with honesty, and how to forgive with wisdom. You become a safe place for love to flourish because you are no longer ruled by fear, anger, or insecurity. Healing from past wounds is not just about feeling better. It's about becoming better. It's about becoming the kind of person who can love deeply, trust fully, and build faithfully. It's about creating space for the kind of relationship that reflects God's heart to the world. So if you find yourself in a season where God is digging deep, bringing things to the surface that you thought were buried, don't resist it. Embrace it. Let Him finish the work He started, because the healing He brings now will pave the way for the love story He has already written, a story filled with wholeness, joy, and a beauty that only comes when two healed hearts meet in His perfect timing.